Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, president and founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand-Up. Without any further ado, let's get started. Today I want to cover an article that was sent to me by a dear friend who, one of my readers found an article by a dear friend, Bob Galen. And here he talks about the concept of something called Story Sherpas. And I think this is really interesting. So I can tell you now, this guy here, Bob, has written a ton about product ownership, product backlogs, and user stories. He's been doing this for years. But there's something that he says he hasn't had an opportunity to share that's been working well for him for many years. So the idea is that the product backlog refinement and what he calls the three amigos metaphor for story evolution. Now, admittedly, I did not know about the three amigos metaphor. And the three amigos are developers, testers, and the business analyst to the product owner. And that's kind of how he calls it the three amigos meeting. This is something very similar to what I might refer to as the POBAFATA, right? The product owner, business analyst, functional analyst, and technical analyst, that we have representation from each group. And, the concept of the Story Sherpa was, the idea was to have one person on a team to serve as a guide or a Sherpa for an individual story. They didn't necessarily do all the work, but this was the guide. The story execution was done by the team members, and the product owner was the one who created the story. But the Sherpa would make sure that refinements and readiness for the story was done, that execution of the story met the definition of done, and that acceptance and sign-off for the demonstration of the story was completed. And I think that this is great because for years now, I can also agree with Bob. I've done this. I've had one person on a team step up and be, you're going to take the lead on this story. And it's not that they're the lead story person, and it's not that they're going to be working on it themselves. They could have multiple people on the team trying to get those things resolved. But there's always at least one person who we could rely on and go to if we had questions, if we needed details, if we needed additional information. There was always that go-to person, that Sherpa, that was going to help us get things done. And they were going to help us make sure we identified and took care of any kind of interruptions or any kind of dependencies that might have been brought up, or any kind of damage that could be done to the team. This person was running interference, right? And you think, oh, well, that's a scrum master, but not always. I think for a specific story, sometimes it's better to have someone right there on the ground level that can answer questions about the way things are expected to be delivered and about what's happening with that story. It's not always the scrum master who's going to run down every impediment. Remember, the scrum master is like a doctor. They're going to take and listen to all of the symptoms. They're going to issue a prescription based on their diagnosis, and then it's up to the teams to take that prescription to the pharmacy and get it filled and to take action on the diagnosis. So I think that this person, needs to be someone other than a product owner or scrum master, right? It's not just one of those individuals. The role shouldn't be taken as something outside of the bounds of the team. It's a soft role. It's intended to be a reminder within the team of that it's their responsibility to deliver good work. And, there were some people who were not favorable, he says, to the name Sherpa. I actually like it. I think it's great. But you could also, choose story owner, story guide, story shepherd, story herder. There's so many of these. Story lord, right? Yeah, I don't know. But my point is, if you try this, even for a sprint or two, and see if you just give some ownership to an individual on a team, what's going to happen is if you do this without creating a quote-unquote team lead that takes over everything, what you're going to find is that it empowers individuals and it allows them to have more buy-in, and it allows them to have some more accountability when it comes to getting things done. And I certainly don't think accountability hurts. It's one of those things that have been missing for a long time for many teams. And I think that it's just a good way to drive the importance of, hey, we're doing this together as a team and we need to drive it home. We need to finish what we started. And I think that once you try this, you will find success. You will appreciate this. And Bob, hats off to you. You did it again. Another one of those things that, I often think about and I often do, but I didn't often talk about. So it's great to see that you pull those things in, and I really appreciate the fact that you include those in your blog there. So wonderful opportunities still exist in Agile. There's lots of things still going on. As always, we encourage you to visit AgileDad.com, where you can learn more about this topic and many other topics. And if you have a topic you want covered on a Daily Stand-Up podcast, don't be afraid to reach out. We'd love to hear your ideas so that we can get them included. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.